me, I don't speak Mandarin or Japanese or anything, so I'm really trying to find people that I can trust in that world, and then try to support them a little bit. You know, there are some costs that are legit to list on different platforms, whatnot. And so, you know, trying to support that without
just talking about the Chinese group
being scammed, for lack of a better word, you know.
Sure. How many people are in that Chinese group?
Yeah, it's 25 people right now. I would say that probably 5 or 8 we've actually heard from. But some of the more recent ones that Mr. Gaines has been talking to seem a lot more legit and able to reach a larger audience and whatnot. So, you know, and you know, they're not asking for money to do it either. And, you know, really, I've been focused on just kind of educating, and then if somebody wants to actually buy in and get involved, and then, you know, then they have a reason to push it to a larger audience, then, you know, that's the type of thing that I'm wanting to support, you know.
Yeah, that's exciting. I mean, it starts with 25. You know, actually, it didn't start with 25. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, just one foot in front of the other. That's kind of the way I'm looking at it.
Yep. I mean, I'm hearing about onboarding going on outside of the Chinese group, in addition to the Chinese group. I mean, we have a Polish group going on now. Who knows what other dialects of groups we have that we don't even know about. So that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why not? I think.
Yeah, Johnny. What I find so fascinating about that Chinese group, like you said, is that they don't really have a presence here on Pulse Chain yet. So it's like fresh people that we can educate not only on pTGC and UFO, but also on Pulse Chain as a chain and PulseX, etc. It's like a fresh group of people that we can educate on like what we are passionate about over here, which I think is super cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I think one cool thing with Asian in general, because I'm actually Hawaiian and Japanese. I know I don't sound it, and if you saw me, I don't really look it either. But on my mom's side, we come from the Sakuma family and the Ka'anaku family, and so, you know, it's I do feel like it's, you know, my people, all that kind of thing. So, you know, when I saw something great in this, as I learn more and all the rest, it's just like, well, shoot, let's give it a try and see, you know, see who's interested, and then just keep building, you know. And the cool thing about Asians is they're very intrigued by anything that's built in America, and then, you know, as they feel like they're one of the first ones to know about it, that can be, you know, a very cool thing for them to talk about and whatnot. So it can spread fairly quickly. You know, it's my opinion. Hopefully that is the case as we keep moving forward.
Yeah, you really just need to find one person. If you can get that right one person, it can lead to a ton of connections, right? It's just, it's finding that one person that can open up a lot of new doors.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's super awesome, though.
I really like the Asians. I like their disposition. They seem to be very, very humble kind of people. Amicable is a way I would describe them too. Kind of compliant.
Yeah, definitely built on honor, you know, family, and you know, loyalty is huge. You know, some of the things we've been losing in our Western culture they've definitely held on to, and it shows, you know, in their schooling and their education and in their family and whatnot. So it's something, you know, I was in Hawaii on the North Shore of Oahu over the Christmas break with my kids, and you know, I just love going to that area because the community, the family is the center of everything. And you know, when people get together and talk, it's not really, hey, what is Trump doing, or hey, what is, you know,
Yeah.
have you heard about this new BEI thing, or any of that BS? It's literally, oh, we're gonna go surfing on Friday. Are you coming? We're gonna have this dinner at my house. Are you coming? You know, it's all just centered around the community. Oh, this is happening at the school. You know, we're getting together for that, and you know, it's a lot different than what I experience in that.
Absolutely. And, you know, I don't like my generation was raised that, you know, the people in that part of the world are poor, barely have shoes, and all this and that. But I'm going to tell you what, I've been researching different countries and such and looking into traveling, that sort of thing. And a lot of that is ancient history. Those countries are so developed. Sure, they got infrastructure issues sometimes. But I'm going to tell you what, man, I have heard that if you accidentally drive off the road in China, you're going to run into a millionaire. So they got money. Not all of them, and not all Americans have money either. I'm all for going into the, you know, bringing the Chinese, you know, economy into crypto.
Yeah, it can definitely be a huge market, especially with what Zen has built here. You know, it's something that I think we all wished when we first stepped into crypto that we stumbled onto this first thing. You know, and I know I definitely did not, and I got rugged on multiple occasions, and you know, trying to put trust in other people, and you know, in them doing something similar to what has been built here trustlessly, uh, and that's why I'm so you know, I've got this conviction for what we're doing here, because it's all on chain. There's no piece of it that has to be built or hoped for, or you know, saying that well, if we wait a little longer, then it'll be finished or something. You know, it's literally happening every single day. I mean, you know, just before I jumped on this live, I saw the tweet saying that we'd burnt another $41,000 worth of. I'm sorry, I don't know which ticker it was. Which one was it?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what it was. I haven't seen that tweet yet.
OSEX. Yeah, you know, so that's what I'm getting at is, you know, every week we see a tweet like that, and then you can check it on chain. You can see it for yourself. You can see the liquidity pools constantly growing, you know, and then one of the tweets that I kind of responded to today, let me see if I can pull that up. I thought I had kind of a, it was when this guy Trevor, he jumped in, you know, talking about the Gray's currency, and he's got a decent amount of followers. Sounds like he's an OG in the chain world. And, you know, I just told him that pTGC is something that will continue to get stronger over the decades. Renown's code and constantly growing burnt liquidity are undeniable. Can you imagine how small the dips would be on Bitcoin if 0.5% of all transactions were added to LP from day one and couldn't be pulled and sold, but were available to holders as a bank account? You know, it's stuff that it's just amazing.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying those kind of words, Johnny. I think what we're developing over here is changing the game, because the fiat transaction token, they had a pretty bad rep for a long time, due to the reason of not being able to control demand. Controlling demand in a product is very, very hard. And when we were able to actually develop a system to control demand and keep it to where, in a way, the transactions, the volume never turns off. Yeah, there's slower days and higher days. That's with anything, right? But the ability to have somewhat of a mechanical control over this, I think, is going to create a different outlook for the fiat transaction tokens, for sure.
Well, Bitcoin is back over $100,000. I didn't mean to change the subject. I didn't mean to.
Yeah, no, I don't have a lot to add to what Zen is saying. You know, it's awesome, and as I learn more, I'm interested in sharing more, jumping into the conversation. But a lot of times, I kind of defer to everybody else because you guys are so well versed and have done such a good job with it. So
yeah, Joey, I just wanted to say I think you're doing an amazing job. I think there is so many different roles in the community, and the fact that you've kind of taken it upon yourself to go out there and try to tap into uncharted territory as far as a whole group of people that aren't even in Pulse yet. Like that's a hurdle on its own, is to get them over here to Pulse Chain, and then that step further to get them over to our sub ecosystem on Pulse Chain. And not even is that good for just pTGC or UFO, but I think that's good for Pulse Chain as a whole too, because the product is sticky. Once I think people realize what it is and use it, they do fall with the product itself. So, kudos to you for taking a step in a direction most people aren't trying to.
yeah, well, thanks a ton. I hope we can be even 1% successful with those types of things. I think that if we can show some of that kind of stuff over the long term, I would hope that we'd see some recognition from Richard Hart, because we're all really appreciative of what he's done in the crypto world, and excited to help everybody understand what Pulse Chain really is instead of what lies have been told about it.
Yeah, definitely. It takes a lot to spread the word of like the truth instead of what mainstream media, which obviously crypto isn't, or Pulse Chain isn't on mainstream media, but in the crypto world, there's mainstream people that speak, and that kind of hits the media of crypto. And I personally believe those people have been spreading false information about RH, and one by one. And as far as the products go, as the products become successful and have sustainability, and all these things will slowly prove them wrong through actions, not even through words. But yeah, Banana, is there a direction you kind of wanted to take this from here?
Bitcoin went over $100,000 today. I think it touched off $102,000. That was a very welcome improvement.
Yeah, what was that up on the day? You have that chart?
Yes, I have it at. Yeah, it was 100 and just a fuzz over 102. Actually, let's see. Let me pull up the daily. So we closed, we were up, yes, this is yesterday in crypto terms. We were up 3.6% for the day yesterday. And we just started a new day and we're in the red, but we did move up higher than we went yesterday. So yeah, it's 100, let's see here, it knifed up to 102.04, 2.1. So it's nice to see that because it was up over 100,000 mid-December. It went up to 107. So it's been, 3 weeks since it's been in the hundreds. It's nice to see it back. Hopefully the trend continues.
Yeah, how's ETH looking right now? Are we making our way back with ETH?
Yes. We closed a green candle yesterday, and just like Bitcoin, because ETH follows Bitcoin. Well, actually, we've got a green. Ethereum has a green candle today so far. Bitcoin's is red, Ethereum's is green. But it's at almost $3,700. So that's good to see too. Let's have a look at PLS. Let's see. Ooh. Well, we closed yesterday in the red, just like Bitcoin and Ethereum. And we opened today in the green. So that's good news. Let's see, we're up. We're up 1.27% today. I'll take it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Gosh, I forget the math now. I'd have to relook at my spreadsheet. A while ago, I think it was 10%. I'd be guessing now what it was. I did an experiment on how many 10% days you would need. They would have to be consecutively, but obviously, like other days would have to be zero or increases of just smaller upwards because it didn't have any negative in it. But it was, I think, to do a 50x, how many days of 10% day gross it would take. Gosh, I think it was 42.
For what, PLS?
Or anything. Yeah, just for anything to do a 50x, I think it was 42 days of 10% price increases.
I'll see if I can find out.
I have a spreadsheet. I'll just have to. I built it like months ago, so I don't remember all the details off the top of my head. But I was just kind of looking at it like, a 10% increase on Pulse we've seen done a lot of times. Obviously it's hard, but it's not out of the question. And if you factor in some non-10% days just in a positive direction, it doesn't take too long to do technically what could be possible with 50x, right?
Yes. I was surprised. I was doing some of that on pTGC to see, because I was like, okay, we'd like to do 100x or whatever it is. And I was like, okay, how long would it take? Or how many little percentage jumps would it take to do 100x? And then you could do something like 2.5% moves every day over the span of 6 months and get you 100x. I was rather impressed at how little a move it takes.
Zen, I found your thing. I had reposted it once before, and it was 10% increase per day for 43 days is a 50x.
Yeah, it was one day off on my memory. 42.
Pretty good.
But yeah, and that goes for pTGC too. With pTGC, we have a lot of levers. We've seen a lot of 10% up days. And it doesn't need to be that quick, right? We can have days of zero growth, maybe a little one step back, two steps forward, but just chugging in the right direction. We've seen what that's gotten us to date. Is, not every day is green, but we keep putting one foot in front of the other, and we've obviously seen where that's gotten us in the last year and a half. And the plan is to kind of just stay on course and keep doing the same thing. We know what works, so just kind of keep doing it.
Mm-hmm. In times like these, I just kind of plan for the worst, hope for the best. Like, when is Pulse Chain going to turn around? We don't know. How long am I willing to wait? Long time. I'm talking months and months. For me personally, if it takes that long.
Yeah, I think there's silver lining to that. Like, I look at the Pulse Chain dip that came the second time. We're on like third time now, but pTGC and with UFO launching really, really used that dip to its benefit. It gained a ton of LP at the bottom at those levels. Due to Pulse Chain going down, it obviously decreased the price of pTGC2, which created a cheaper pTGC token, which increased the rate of the buy and burn as far as quantity goes. So then when we move back up, we have a greater amount of our supply bought and burnt. So mentally, I think it's hard to see prices low, but mechanically, we're one of the only systems that can take advantage of highs or lows. And it feels good to kind of know that the machine is working in specific ways at lower levels that benefit us later on in time.
Yeah, the last one that we had started back in January. That was a 60-day run, and in those 60 days, the price of Pulse jumped almost 300%. It was about 284%, which averages out to about 4.75% per day. That's a substantial jump per day. When you're talking about a market cap the size of Pulse Chain. And then on that last run, we had two. So that was 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It was a 3-month run, and that one ended up being about almost a 200% in 3 months. So that would be putting it at over 3% per week. But the system's creating a higher low here. If you look on the chart, it's not looking like it wants to go down to a triple bottom. If you look at it on the weekly, it looks like it's just laying down right here, and you don't have some massive capitulation thing happening at this level. So it'll be interesting to see if we break down and go lower than the wick from the interpole FUD, but it's kind of creating it's almost like it's landing like a feather at this level. And I think that Pulse Chain is technically up on the day over 5%. It's right around that. If you have to go into smaller time frames to grab it. But if you go like on the 4-hour, and you pull it from around midnight, you're looking at I'm looking at about 7% from the bottom in the last 24 hours.
That's true. I can see that now. I put it on the 2-hour.
Yeah, when you're in the larger time frames like the daily and the weekly, you can't see the actual run up as clearly as when you zoom in a little bit.
Cool. Thanks for showing me that.
Yeah, that's why if you're looking up above on text tools, if you're seeing everything scrolling up, up on top, you can see everything's turning green again.
Yep, it is. Was there any other news we need to chat about? Is there any positive news?
I think the torch started to be passed today to Trump. Obviously, it's still a few more days, but I think the process started.
How does that? I don't think that starts until Inauguration Day. Do they actually have a Passover period of time? I mean, what is it? Handover period of time before Inauguration Day?
I saw a tweet kind of saying some like formal decision saying that Trump was the one, even though he's like previously formally done, but I don't know the details. That
Sure.
was
Well, yeah, just remember what happened January 6th, which is today, of 2020. That's what they all want to talk about, right? And so it's the certification of the vote. And so, it's the House and Senate basically that are acknowledging the certification of all the states and certifying that Trump is the president. That's the little bit that I understand.
Yeah, the sixth is when the joint session of Congress meets to count the electoral votes, officially confirming him as the president. And then the 20th is obviously the inauguration.
Okay.
awesome. Yeah, I thought I read it somewhere. I just didn't know all the correct words. So thanks for filling in the gaps.
Yeah. Any other news? Anything about the SEC case? Is there any news about it?
No, I don't think there's any news about it yet. I saw a couple people tweeting about it. Some saying it's good news, some saying it's bad news. I think the truth behind this, they want to know. Yeah. I saw Nuclear Herbs, who I think is probably the best person to look at. He made a comment in a discussion that was saying that he sometimes thinks the longer time period is sometimes a good thing because when they're writing a dismissal, it takes a little bit longer than non-writing a dismissal. So he did point that out because someone was saying, since it's taking longer, that's not good. And he kind of just gave the counter argument to it. Like, hey, like that's not completely true because it's actually pretty easy to not dismiss something, but to dismiss something, it takes a little bit more paperwork.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So I thought that was interesting. That's pretty much my go-to person for any information on it, but nothing concrete is out.
He's an attorney too. So you'd think he would know. So yes, he works in the legal system. So my takeaway from all that SEC stuff is, I don't know what direction it's going to go. I don't know how short or how long it's going to be. Just kind of, you know what I'm doing? I'm just working. That's what I'm doing. I'm working, and whenever it happens, I'll know about it. I'll hear about it. And it'll be fine either way. Really. Do you want to look at some metrics, guys? Let's do it. You're going to look into ptgc.com. Go to the dashboard. And I think, is that the only free tab on this site? Is that you're aware of? Are all the other tabs paid? I think they are. I'm not sure.
Prairie, I don't mean to cut you off, but I got something I'd like to tackle on a recording. message here, if you don't mind?
No. Yeah. Please.
So some people's end, I've heard I've heard this multiple times. I would just like for you to nip it in the bud once and for all for me, and just for the community. But some people have said that, PTGC is just a tax token, right? And that it was a project that already failed on Ethereum. So it's absolutely the wrong take. It's absolutely the wrong information. But can you just straighten that iron? Can you just iron that out once and for all about what's happening on Pulse Chain is just a rehash of what happened on Ethereum, please? Because there's people that are asking that question and making that comment, and it's just not a true comment.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to point out on top of that, you could look at any product and you could take exact forks of code and you can launch literally that exact same fork of code on the exact same blockchain at the exact same time. And with a different community and with different leaders, one could be successful, one could fail, one could be a rug pull. So there is a lot of moving parts to even the exact same thing that you have to take into consideration. That's one thing that I would point out. The other thing is when Richard gave us this opportunity on Pulse Chain, he created a scenario for us that's really never been seen on any other blockchain. So when we recognized this scenario that actually creates this unique opportunity for us, we were able to create a system that, yes, has some of the basics of a fiat transaction token that we've seen in the past and have actually failed in the past. Some are still around and moving up and down, but they, as big as they once were, they had to sell off. What we found out, and I've studied hundreds of projects, is the reason that sell-off came is due to the musical chairs kinds of incident. Is the music stopped and everyone went to grab a chair, and then people were left holding the bag, and then people get scared and it sells and it sells and it sells. But then there's no one willing to pick that bag back up and turn back the music on. The thing that we created here on Pulse Chain is there's something in play that always turns music back on for the most part, or can start that music back up. And that's the mechanic that drives the volume, that drives the machine, the buying versus the APY, the trades, with no human interaction needed. So with every blockchain, not just fiat transaction tokens, what everyone struggled to actually figure out is demand. And when people point fingers at fiat transaction tokens, I don't necessarily think that's fair, because there's more tokens that fail that are not fiat transaction tokens than fiat transaction tokens. It's a lot of just failures because no one has actually sat and figured out how to solve the demand side of crypto. There's literally full blockchains. There's tokens that have some of the most thought through utilities that you could ever think of. But none of that actually matters at all. Because if you don't have a user willing to use your blockchain, if you don't have someone willing to use your utility, if you don't have someone to buy your DeFi protocol or your zero tax meme coin, nothing actually matters. All that matters is demand. So when we actually got here on Pulse Chain, we actually figured out a way to mechanically drive demand. In my opinion, that was the checkmate needed for fiat transaction tokens. Because if you can mechanically drive demand, you can mechanically generate value. And if you can mechanically generate value, you can create a very sustainable ecosystem for a community that can thrive and grow with the system. Did I answer the question properly, or kinda? Orlando.
Okay, can you hear me?
I hear you now.
Okay, it partially did. I'd like to have the second half of the question answered though, because it's not the exact same protocol, and obviously it functions much differently on pulse chain, and there was nuances to that launch. So if there's anything you could just add, because I don't believe it was just an exact duplicate and just brought over to pulse chain.
Yeah. So if another thing is I studied is a lot of other buy and burn or reflection or auto LP adding systems, but there isn't a lot of systems that actually incorporate those things all into one. And then there also isn't a lot of systems that try to back the APY that is paid out. So one thing that I was paying attention to with our system is I on purpose made it to where the reflections and rewards that were paid out were actually less than the LP ads and the buy and burns that were getting put in. So what that creates is every time, APY is paid out, reflections are being paid out. There's always more value backing the system, buy and burns LP ads, making it to where it becomes really, really sustainable. In my opinion, more than non-Fion transaction tokens, truthfully. But again, it's not an exact copy of anything. It's, in my opinion, a custom creation that this isn't just my opinion, this is fact. I spent 2 years studying hundreds of different protocols, and I pulled things, and if you really get to know the project, you can actually find key features that I've mimicked in other protocols, but I've kind of combined them all into one system. Because what I wanted was an complex. Go ahead.
So I apologize, but I want to dig a little deeper on you. Okay. So when somebody says that this protocol existed on Ethereum, and basically the exact failed protocol was brought to pulse chain, right? And so somebody is saying, yeah, I'm kind of not interested in that. It was on ETH. It was a failed protocol on ETH. And basically they just brought it over to pulse chain. What is your response to an individual that says that?
Yeah, so on ETH, there was a couple main things that led to pretty much lack of human interaction, lack of demand. One of them was the fact that the ETH fees to perform these transactions, to interact with the code, were too expensive. A very basic example to another project that this happened to is Hex. So Hex, to claim small stakes, it actually became unprofitable anymore at a certain point, so they had to just let those stakes go. And this same situation was happening to the Hex community, hence their founder forked an entire blockchain and made fees cheaper so their system can thrive. So when he did that, he actually created this opportunity for other systems to thrive as well that also were somewhat reliant on transactions on chain to make the system be strong. This is one example of why it didn't function too well on Ethereum, is just because to do basic transactions like participating in the DAO or staking, locking, it costs $20, $30, $50. And users don't want to spend that type of value just to do these transactions. But when RH gave us Pulse Chain, it made it so much cheaper to do these transactions that were somewhat necessary for a machine like this to function. Another thing that he gave us when he forked Pulse Chain was that opportunity that I was previously talking about to create a system that actually doesn't need demand from humans because it's mechanically driven demand. These were the main two changes of the system. There's a couple other minute changes, like the fee per transaction, etc. Because for market makers to fix the price, we noticed that the fee on Ethereum was a little bit high. So what we did is we decreased it to make it to where the the point that the threshold that needs to be met was more often, so it could create more volume within the system. So it's not really an exact copy of the code. There's changes to make it more sustainable and thrive over here on Pulse Chain.
Yeah, and I would just say thank you for that. Thank you for that. I would just say too that look at the success of Pulse Chain compared to what happened on Ethereum. It's obviously not mimicked. There's obviously something amazing going on as pTGC has obviously become, in my opinion, the number one blue chip token outside of the core suite of RH coins on the chain.
Yeah,
So
and,
that's
another thing that I think everyone should kind of think about is there's power to like momentum. So I guess the easiest example would be like a snowball. And if you put that snowball rolling down the hill and you start the snowball, like a simple pebble can actually stop that snowball because it hasn't gained like a volume of a bigger mass and it hasn't built up any momentum. But what's awesome about what we've had here on pTGC or on Pulse Chain with pTGC is we've actually gained so much momentum. We have now, 10,000 holders, which is probably more like 5,000 holders, but 10,000 holders shown on chain. We have $25 million in liquidity. We have a system that trades it all day long with no human interaction. We have gained so much momentum. There's so much volume, like mass to the system, that pebble cannot actually stop it anymore. There's a community behind this. Now it's like stopping a freight train. And this is also what I think about Hex. Like if you think about what Hex is, where people think that Hex can die. And it's like, there's no way. Hex is a freight train. It's very, very hard to stop a freight train. When it's moving,
Yeah,
you said it's moving.
I would also say that just to piggyback off of that, and then we can move on from this conversation. When Pulse Chain breaks out of this shit funk it's in and does a measly 5 to 10x, this thing won't be a freight train. It'll be a Hulk. And it'll happen very quickly because of the fact that this is the most benevolent protocol on Pulse Chain. And there is not another protocol on Pulse Chain that's more bullish and benevolent than pTGC's ecosystem. It just continues to burn millions of dollars worth of the core RH tokens into the liquidity web, which is handing you, the holders, all of that capital. And that capital, the bigger it gets, the more USD value that it is, it generates more of that capital to just keep doing the same thing. So once that revaluation does take place, whenever that is, that freight train is going to be much more powerful than it even is now, and it's going to happen overnight. When it does happen, it will happen overnight.
Yeah, the RH gave us this very specific opportunity on Pulse Chain, and I think it's going to create a scenario where a system like pTGC can thrive more than I think even its strongest community members can even imagine.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate you fielding that question that came in. Prairie, if you want to go ahead and run those numbers now, man. Sorry to have interrupted you.
Not at all. Not at all, Mando. That's what we're here for, right? Questions, comments. So if you do have a question, raise your hand and Zen will keep an eye out for those. but we're going to run over the metrics for pTGC and UFO, and then we'll probably get into some moon math and reflection math. So we are 30. pTGC is 30x right now.
Yeah, 1 second, Banana.
Sure.
I did bring someone up right now. I just noticed. True DeFi. Did you have any questions?
Am I audible? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Great. So first of all, compliment to the protocol you developed. My name is Daniel, aka Tukin Writer. So I'm in the space for a while. I'm also a developer, founder. But what I would like to point out is going back to Mandel's question before. I'm facing the situation that I'm, for my own work, I really thoroughly have to carve out the differences between the different cryptos. And doesn't matter on which chain. Many founders make the mistake to see their holders, their shareholders, as their customers. I know DeFi, we don't have customers, but to make it easy to understand for everyone. And what I loved is, I think it was you post pTGC and on Corey Costa's show, because I don't know much about your protocol. But one thing I really remember when you were talking about the fee structure, and that fee structure generates revenue from externally generated service fees, and these service fees are actual values. And this is, to my understanding, why your protocol flourishes. Because if there is no intrinsic value, nothing can move on. But in your case, you achieved, and that was that really hit my sympathy point when I heard this on Corey's show back then, maybe a month or 2 months ago, that you achieved to generate externally generated revenues, bringing it back to the system, and therefore bring value to the protocol. And everyone who does not achieve to generate or to supply their holders with externally generated fees, it's a belief system. In your case, I think it's the momentum is not by accident, but by definition and by development. So tips Fedora, I just wanted to point this out. And this makes the big difference between normal or 99% of the protocols and the successful ones.
Yeah, thanks for coming up. And yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that's one of the things that obviously sets our system up different than 99.9% of crypto out there, right? Is every system is mainly built on the idea of you need new users to come in for old users to exit. And what's nice about our system is while users are in, or even if users aren't in, the value that's within the system, which is currently $25 million, is generating value for all the current holders of the system. It doesn't actually need new users to come in for us to thrive and move on to the next level. And I don't know of another crypto on other blockchains that have actually successfully solved this problem. When I figured it out, chills went down my whole entire body, because I've been studying crypto for 4 years in total now. Spent 2 years coming up with the idea of this system. And just like Mando previously brought up, is there's a version of this on Ethereum that ultimately ran out of human interaction, ran out of users to buy it due to just demand shortage. And when I actually figured out the way to create a mechanic that could increase the system's value from outside generated value, not requiring users to buy the token, I knew that was a checkmate. Yes. But we understand the tokens today. It is unknown, I think, even like we are such a small little place here on Pulse Chain that I don't even think it's really gotten out to like the general token public. And when it does get out to the general token public of what that system actually is, like a real system that generates value from external places and brings it in, this is the same idea of pretty much any business out there, right? This is the same idea of a centralized exchange. Right? They're generating value from market makers based on that they hold, and they now are some of the largest companies in the world. We're just kind of doing the decentralized way where the value goes to the holders and to the token price. But yeah, I just think that's actually relevant to the question. And fast.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. I think there was actually I was part of the development of failed projects in the past. I also developed successful projects, but the failed projects of the past, I have loyalty towards these communities, and I thought, man, how can I bring value to this? And, so I started basically a similar thought process as I can see that you applied, and so that's why I just wanted to express my compliments, and that's actually the point, that we should never ever abuse the inexperience of new people joining, but to really dig and grind. How can we generate a product? Product lives from sales, and these sales have to be generated. If we have these sales automated or manually, then we have a benefit and hopefully a profit. If this profit is redistributed, comes to the benefit of the holders, then they know where they are holding, and that's the easiest thing. It's like, as you said, in real life, if you have employees, you have to spoil them, you have to deliver, you have to give them something that separates your benefits from someone else. And that's the same with companies as a shareholder, and that's actually the direction where our industry should go to. That we recognize intrinsic values outside, what is the intrinsic interest and need of holders, and then try to carve something out that delivers that not even consciously aware of expectations. All right. I go back to listen, and
yeah, no,
Yeah.
I appreciate you saying that. It kind of goes back to the basics of like why with like DeFi for a while it was so big about products coming out with utility, right? They knew that the utility was a way to bring in external value from outside places into its holders. And the thing with the utilities, I watched this happen over and over again, is if they didn't have the user to use the utility and pay to use the utility actually didn't mean anything. It was literally just a slapped-on sticker to make people believe that there was a utility behind the protocol to get people to buy in with their money, which that was the thing that was actually increasing the price, but the utility wasn't actually generating any external value. But our system is so unique because the utility isn't really used by humans. People do buy and sell into the system, but the main utility is the market makers using our liquidity to generate that generates the value and then brings that back to the holders. It's interesting because the biggest sector of like volume moving throughout the world, like value moving, is finance. Finance is the biggest sector. It actually is bigger than goods and services. And what is so interesting about crypto is it puts finance in the hands of the people. And then if you could put the finance in the hands of the people and then make a utility that is mechanically driven to to bring value from the number one place that value is moving. You know, value is not number one place in crypto, but finance in general. Crypto is a form of finance, and we are now making our utility mechanically driven the volume from crypto, and that's where we're generating our value from. So technically, what we are taking advantage of is obviously a blockchain that's yet to thrive. But in the event of this blockchain thriving, it could be a crazy event to happen.
Yeah, Zan, I'll piggyback off of something you said earlier too. You said somebody can fork the same code and it just completely flop, right? It's not as easy as take the same token mechanics and successful. There's a ton of thought process that's gone into the smart contracts that's behind the pTGC ecosystem. But there is also, outside of the actual code and what it does, there is a legitimate secret sauce, if you will, of different components and characteristics that have to happen all in one place, all in one time to make it successful. It's absolutely not, hey, I see what they're doing, I'm going to copy it. It's already been tried 49 times on Pulse Chain. So that's the unique value proposition about the pTGC ecosystem. It takes a lot of benevolence. It takes a ton of capital given away for free. You literally have to be willing to give away a lot of money to do this. Because the only way that it's possible to do it is to give the money away. Right? And that's just one aspect of it. But it's a very important aspect that 99% of people would never do with that amount of money in their hands. So that's the unique value proposition, is that people still don't get that you don't just fork equal success. It's not that. It's so much more than that. And that's why at $100 million market cap on Pulse Chain, barely reaching a small cap in terms of market cap, and watching, 80,000, 50,000, 60,000, 30,000 literally being given to the pTGC holders every week, every month. Millions of dollars is being given to the pTGC holders. That there is not another protocol that's doing this anywhere. So, for people that think that you can just come and, hey, copy for success, it's not happening. There's a lot that has to come together and converge in one place to make something like this work. And it's absolutely imperative that people understand that. Because what happens is if they don't understand that, you can be sold into a bill of bullshit where, you think that, oh, they're doing the same thing. No, they're not.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of ingredients to the formula that people don't even know exist. And I think it's probably the easiest way to say that.
Exactly.
They're looking at the two main ingredients and thinking they have the whole secret formula, but there's many that people don't even recognize or know that are in there.
And I think it's important for our community to really understand that actually is a very true statement. It's not something that I just said. it's something that's 100% true. And so, when you're being offered, the 29th rehash of the thing that's failed, it's very similar to Hex. How many things tried to copy Hex? And even, I want you to think about this, even one gentleman tried to copy Hex and was benevolent. And not only was he benevolent, he literally burnt 55,000 Ethereum into a liquidity pool with his tokens, and it completely flopped. And all of that Ethereum is literally locked in an LP forever because he didn't know what he was doing. So you can even be benevolent and massively overcapitalized and screw this thing up.
Yeah, the robustness of a protocol is indeed a challenge. I find myself, I'm basically calling from the labs right now and testing up and down, doing volume tests. So actually, I have a question. I hope I don't disturb too much, but the ongoing conversation. But I have actually a question to you. When you were testing through the protocol, how much of a difference or how much of challenges did you meet from testnet towards mainnet testing?
Yeah. Well, on Ethereum, testnet is pretty much irrelevant compared to Ethereum. So it's not even a real scenario. With Pulse Chain, it was in a way tested on mainnet with real value, just with a different ticker name. And that's it. That's what I've actually learned is the best way to test things is, like, you can play a scrimmage game all you want, right? But you don't really know what's going to happen until you actually step on the field.
All right. Yeah. Well, I met some challenges with above 10,000.
Yeah, because you can deploy something on a test net, and you got it dialed, and then you go to mainnet, and it blows up in your face because everything, all the data was off. It's just crypto. Right.
Well, and there's just simple things like, it's not really player versus player on testnet. No one really cares. So even when you enter mainnet, like you have to realize you even as a founder are up against other people who ultimately only care about extracting more value as a founder and someone who's trying to value back your system. Well, when you're value backing your system, there's people actually trying to devalue back your system and put that value right into their pockets. So there is so many moving parts compared to testnet and mainnet. Even also the fact that when you're testing, you're probably using like a test name, and they obviously can tell that. When they can see that you're launching something with a legitimate name, with literal, like real contracts, for example, pTGC and UFO have like 4 contracts mixed in, all working. They recognize this stuff. They're not fools. This is their business. They're going to try to scoop up as much of that system as they can at the bottom for very, very cheap. And then what you have to do is then wash them out and all these kind of things. Like there's so many moving parts to once you get into the real game. I don't think a test net and even real scenarios on mainnet they can prepare you, but a lot of times
Question focus more on the technical side, but I appreciate. So I continue with my work. I'm leaving in a few minutes. It was a pleasure, but I saw that you holding a space. I wanted to come in and express my compliments because that's the only product. Actually, I don't know exactly how your entire ecosystem works, but that thing that I heard there on the Cory Costa show that really hit me, and I thought, man, finally someone who speaks the truth. And yeah, that's for sure.
Are you a holder? Are you a holder of pTGC at this point?
No.
What are you doing, man? What the hell?
I'm developing, building, and
Well, you can develop all day long and still make money, man.
yeah. But at the moment, my weeks, and you might know how that looks like. My weeks are 21/7 in the labs. But yeah, I definitely consider it. But yeah, I'm just looking from afar. But I might become a holder. Why not? It's the only product that I see at the moment on the horizon.
Right now, the system, in my opinion, this isn't advice, but take a look at the price against Pulse Chain on the weekly and on the daily. The system is in another accumulation phase. So we've had an all-time high, we had a retrace with the Interpol FUD, it pulled back up, and now it's literally sidelining now. When this system does that, go back and study the chart. It's done it about 5 times now. When the system kind of lands here, in general, past performance doesn't guarantee future results, but in general, because of the system's mechanics, when you run out of sellers and the system can only continue to generate revenue and the token supply continues to decrease, at some point, the energy that's being built up in the system has to force the token price up, right? So we are in another, what I believe to be an accumulation zone. And sitting at $100 billion market cap at this point in the bull run, I think this is in my opinion, this is a great place to pick up the back.
I totally agree, right? I totally agree because what I see is the sheer mechanics. The mechanic says the moment there's intrinsic value coming from outside, supplying the system and the holders directly, indirectly. However, there's a benefit that goes to holders. Then this protocol separates 100% from everyone else.
Well, True DeFi, let me ask them this. The other day when the Interpol FUD hit Pulse Chain, which True DeFi, I know you're familiar with what happened, I'm sure. How much revenue did the system generate in terms of Pulse within the 24 to 36 hours of that?
As far as I remember,
No, I'm asking Zen. I'm asking Zen. How much revenue did pTGC generate for holders in that 24-hour period?
Yeah, so the system generated roughly $180,000 worth of revenue in a 24-hour period. And that's technically at the bottoms of Pulse Chain. So if something of this scenario happened at higher levels, obviously that would mean more liquidity, which would mean even more value generated than what was done, a couple weeks ago. But yeah, at the bottoms of Pulse Chain, with a movement like that, the system generated 180K.
Yeah, and then within about 36 hours, of just a few days after that, if you're following the Twitter, you're seeing an LP ad with PulseX for 60 grand, an LP ad with PulseX for 50 grand, an LP ad for 30 grand, another one today for 41 grand. Right? This is all revenue, like you said, being generated at the bottom of the blockchain cycle and literally handed to the token holders. There isn't another technology, there isn't another cryptocurrency on any blockchain that's doing this for token holders that I'm aware of. If you're a speculator on Pulse Chain, what more do you have to see before you take a position, right? So I'll just put that out there to you. But I want to thank you for coming in asking the questions better.
Appreciate everything and hope to see you soon again. And I definitely consider getting it back. However, we're gonna see hear each other soon. And thanks for letting me speak for a moment. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too. See you, UFO. Thanks for coming up. All right, Banana. Do you want to head over to the stats page real quick?
Yep. Stats page. We'll run over this real quick, then we'll do some moon math, and perhaps we'll shut it down, eh? So 24-hour stats for pTGC. The volume. Let me find the volume. The volume was in the past 24 hours, $171,000, which is great. I'm happy with that. I remember just a few months ago when it was in the teens. The total fees collected from that volume was $8,500. For UFO, the volume was less at $73,000. And the fees collected, $4,300. Let's do some moon math. Let's do pTGC PLS. Now let's set the target price at a 100x, meaning PLS. We're going to, in this simulation, PLS is going to do a 100x. What should we be doing for an X factor, Zen? I've been doing 5.
Let's do 5.
X factor 5. So pTGC moves up against PLS at a 5x. Let's calculate and see what we come up with. 17-cent pTGC, which is a 500x from here. That's juicy. And UFO is going to be UFO. Let's do the same scenario. X factor 5, 100x on pulse chain. It's going to be a 2-cent UFO. An additional, another 500x. Let's go to the reflections. The reflections tab on this whole site is my favorite. I got to admit. We'll go into experimental mode. We'll use the demo wallet. For you guys that have the subscription for this is how you can use this site.
Yeah, one thing we gotta get Kong to add is the toggle that adds the 130% if you're staked.
Yeah. Okay. I reached out to him. Okay. I reached out to him today on something on the site too. So I sent him something like every few days. Okay, let me jot that down. Add staking. Okay.
Even if it just because we've already done the math of what it generally is. Like, I know it's not exactly that, but I think that would at least give people a good estimation what it would be if they're staked, right?
Yeah.
And that could be like part of the toggle is, you can just write in there like this is just an increase of 130% based on data pulled. We know it's going to be pretty accurate.
Yes. Okay, so this wallet that he has plugged in here, we know is a Shark wallet. And I'm always just setting the volume to 25 million. We had $1 million volume day just a few weeks ago. And I think we can pretty easily do a 25x on volume. So if pTGC had $25 million in volume, the yearly return on that would be 127% APY, and that's on reflection. The staking would be about that plus. So staking and holding would be about between 250 to 300% APY.
That's why we need the toggle so we can get them the exact number.
So here's this shark. His bag is worth $368,000. His yearly yield would be at $25 million in volume. His yearly yield would be $457,000 reflections only. Double that plus to include staking. Now let's go down to some dolphin and squid level positions. A dolphin position costs $9,000 today. A squid costs $900. Again, at $25 million in volume, that dolphin position would earn, now that's a $9,000 bag. It would earn $11,000 in reflections only. So more than the value of the bag, reflections only, in a year at $25 million in volume. The squid, you can just divide that by 10. That's juicy. I think anybody can see that. Let's look at UFO. We will set the volume again at 25 million. Annual returns, and this guy he's another shark. This is another shark wallet, so he holds $1 billion UFO. His annual returns 390% APY. So his 1 billion UFO tokens is worth $43,000. Yearly yield would be $163,000. Okay, $40,000 bag. Annual yield $160,000. Wow, $25 million in volume. You always got to throw that in there because there's that. I mean, that's essential for these numbers to happen. And then let's go look at the dolphin position. The dolphin position is $93 million, 93 million tokens, which is $3,500 bucks. $3,500 for a dolphin position right now. I remember when it was 1,000 or less. At $25 million in volume, this $3,500 bag would be generating $13,000 in yield. That's nice, man. That's good stuff. I mean, what can you do with $13,000 in mailbox money instead of allowing it for free? Especially if you have a few dollars, right?
Hey, Perry, real quick question on that with the UFO side of things. You're talking about just holding, or is this numbers based on LP?
Holding only. Yeah,
Okay.
This is just reflections.
And is anywhere in these simulations? Oh, there is a UFO. I hadn't gone to that per se.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
UFO LP though, that toggle does not tell you what the APR is for UFO LP. It just gives it shows the LP providers that started farming the last 24 hours. So it'll show you how much they put into what farm, and then it also shows the liquidity webs and what volume the liquidity web generated for each pTGC and UFO. I think he is still working on the APR for UFO farming because it's based on UFO shares. So he's going to have to create a completely different equation to figure those numbers out pretty much.
Yeah, it sounds like he's really never had to tackle that scenario before, so it's a little different metric than and he's just trying to get a handle on all that. Huh?
Yeah, I think that one's a little bit harder for him to figure out. But I know he's working on it. It's just not complete yet. Yeah. I know Banana has on his spreadsheet he has
the APR that he's receiving in his specific wallet that he created. Would you say, Banana, it was like a week or so after launch?
Yeah, I started that wallet actually a couple weeks after the launch. I think
A couple weeks after launch. Yeah, so he kind of, Banana tracks it there, and then you can obviously do the math for your own wallet, but eventually we'd like to get it on the DApp. It's a lot more fun and easier for users to use on the DApp, for sure.
Mhm.
No offense to Banana spreadsheet, though.
Yeah.
What was that? Do you recall off the top of your head what that APR was? Or no?
I don't off the top of my head, but I will look it up. You want the
We'll save it
UFO?
for Saturday. We'll save it for Saturday.
Okay. Yep, we can do that Saturday. I'll make a note. Okay, we've got a voice chat tomorrow at 3 p.m. And then I'll do an AMA on Wednesday at 8 a.m. And these are in Pacific time. Voice chat Thursday, 8 a.m. And we'll have another space Saturday at 7 a.m. Pacific.
Yeah, so if anyone had any questions but just didn't want to come out onto this public space, I'm doing a private VC tomorrow at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So just join the Telegram. I'll be there. Ask any question you please.
Yeah, everything's turning up a little bit right now.
Isn't that
Looks
nice?
like pTGC's at 15%. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. It's crazy how fast things turn around.
Yeah. Crypto's pretty nuts, man.
Yeah, I was looking before we go. I was looking at the chart today, putting together some information for some people, and it's amazing how fast the system recovered after that Interpol wick, and the whole system kind of did a massive bottom there, and then it's still up from that wick now 55%. And it's now landed at this new channel, and it's just sitting here, right? So unless Richard's core suite of coins does some dump, I just don't see, I don't see how we capitulate from here. You don't have large holders dumping a bunch of pTGC, So it's just going to be interesting to watch this. If we break out of this channel here, if this is in fact the new accumulation zone, which I do believe that it is, the next run from here, guys, you guys know what happens. And I'm just, you guys know we don't play around here with words or play with the FOMO bullshit. That's not what we do. We just analyze what's going on in the system. But when you invert it against a pulse chain and you get it out of the USD chart, it becomes very clear that unless there's some major downtrend in what we're bonded to, we're probably going to just continue to trend sideways from here. And then if we get some new larger buyers come in, pulse chain turns around, we're going to be hitting new all-time highs against pulse chain in probably literally in one day, because we're currently literally only about 10.69% from a new all-time high against pulse chain. I want you to think about that. Right now, with all the craziness going on the chain, 10.69% away from a new all-time high against pulse chain.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, that kind of reminded me of something real quick before we go, Mando. I wanted to also put out there another way that we trend against Pulse Chain is due to a few of our connected LP tokens running up against Pulse Chain alongside us. So one of the beautiful things about being not only bonded with the gas token of the chain, which is pretty common on all chains, but being also bonded to sustainable projects, a lot of them made by the same person, there's a thing called reflexivity that takes place. So since we're bonded to these things that themselves have reflexivity against the gas token of the chain, those tend to, when Pulse starts to rise, that's usually from people swapping stables for Pulse or bridging into the chain and swapping their WETH for Pulse, etc., increasing the price of Pulse. But when Pulse increases, everything bonded with Pulse increases, right? So all ships are going to rise unless someone sells out of the ship they're in to hop onto a different ship. That's why the sinking ships are going to just sink forever. So technically, not all ships rise. The ones sinking to the bottom ocean, that's where they're headed. But the ones that have sustainability and are locked type, they're going to rise. Well, the thing is, a portion of that revenue always trickles down to the alts. Well, the nice thing is we're also paired to those alts. So we have a double reflexivity thing going on here. There's a reflexivity thing of Pulse to, let's say, Pulse X. So if any of that value trickles down to Pulse X and lets Pulse X outperform Pulse, well, naturally, what happens is we are going to get the mean, the average of the two things we're connected to, or the 3, 4, 5. It's actually like 20 things for an index of pretty much all the blue chips. But we're taking advantage of the reflexivity of the sustainable things on chain. So that alone is going to help us outperform the blockchain itself. Not to mention that we have our own reflexivity against the blockchain and against the things that we are connected to, like Pulse X and Hex. Keep in mind, reflexivity can work in an opposite direction. If people are selling out of vessels theirs, then you go down. But what we've seen is due to our systems mechanics, the buy and burn, etc., our system has outperformed the blockchain for a consecutive, some days are better than worse, but some days are red. But if you zoom out for a year and a half now, so we have a year and a half of data to look at and learn from and work off of. So we'll see what happens, but we have three things working in our favor for price appreciation, and I love that. I love that there's three things pulling the ship along. We have the blockchain is undervalued, we're built on. We have reflexivity of the tokens we're connected to, and we have the mechanics that push and generate value within our system, pushing up our price. I guess and users can come along if they want to be part of the Grace community. They can buy our token as well. So 4 things helping appreciate the price is just awesome.
And you have a bunch of people that keep buying the token to pair with us. So they're creating their own pools. That doesn't even come from revenue. And that just creates a larger liquidity web for more revenue generation as well. So a lot of people are wanting to piggyback off of the awesomeness of the system. So we don't mind that either.
Yeah.
Awesome, guys. Awesome. Thanks, Prairie. I'm going to take off, guys. God bless everybody. Have a good night. And we'll talk to you guys soon.
Yeah. Thank you, Mando.
Yeah, thank you guys. Johnny, thanks for coming up today. I appreciate you being part of the conversation. It was nice to hear from you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Zen, for putting this awesome thing together. We're having a great time, and thanks, Prairie, for all your efforts there. all your spreadsheets and time with all of these YouTube videos, and Mando for I think Mando's the one that got me to talk first in a little voice chat about a year ago, and kind of got me really thinking and whatnot, and then just thank y'all. It's awesome to be here.
No, we appreciate you being here, Johnny. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks for co-hosting too, Banana. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right.
And
See you guys.
see ya. All right, YouTubians. Thank you for being here. Thank you for boosting the algorithm. We didn't even get to Bitcoin, or did we get to Bitcoin? Maybe that's why we have 143 people in here. They say if you mention Bitcoin, everybody, the eyeballs start coming in. I have seen it. I have seen it happen. Use this trivia button. All right, guys. Go get some work done. And then go home, go to bed. See you guys around the blockchain.